Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by sourcevibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I will always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is Thursday, August 30th. We have a great show planned for you tonight. Sorry I missed you all last week. I literally had a family emergency come up. We'll talk about that a little bit. Sort of sad, a tragedy. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But tonight's topic is the spell of language. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's show. I also have some follow-up items I want to discuss as well. One is on the Arctic. Really fascinating information that I found out. And then another one is on the indigenous people, the true indigenous people, and how more and more truth is starting to get put out there as they drop a lot of hints as well. Okay, so with that said, let me bring on my co-hosts. I see both of them there. Let me bring on Brother Sean. And in case you're in the chat room, I apologize. Blog Talk is acting up, so I can't get to the chat room tonight to see you if you're trying to communicate. All right, so let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Peace and love, sis. I'm well. How about you?
I'm well. It's good to hear your voice.
Likewise.
All right. Let me bring on sis here. Let me see just a second. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. Peace and love to you too, Miss Rhonda and Brother Sean.
Peace and love.
Yeah,
I'm
good to
doing.
hear your voice, sis.
I'm sorry.
I said good to hear your voice.
Good to hear yours too. I was just listening to you on the other week's, couple weeks ago show, and I said, interesting. The first, it's the ninth one. That was pretty cool. So I was sitting
Mhm.
there listening to that. Now I get to really hear you.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Okay, so I wasn't able to make it last week. A friend of mine and my sister, she had an unfortunate tragedy happen where she lost her son. Um, 25-year-old young man, had children, and it was an act of violence, and it appeared to be a retaliation type of situation where somebody felt that he has something to do with one of their people getting murdered or whatever. And so he was literally set up and lured to a place through a woman, and then he was taken out. So we, went to his services in support of her. And so it just made me think of how much stuff that we as a people, as melanated people, are doing to each other. Just the sheer fact that the value of not so much life, but just the value that we place on others with some folks, and it really disturbs me when it's young folks. Um, it just still really just I just can't comprehend it. And it appears to be a cycle among many people. So next week, I'm going to work on a show if time permits. I'm going to really try to put the show together. And if I don't have enough time, I'll bump it out a week and do another topic. But I would really like to do a topic on generational curses, and just how, as a people, we keep perpetuating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And, this isn't just geared towards that specific situation. Just the pain of a mother losing her child, and she outlives her child. Wow, that's a pain that I would never want anyone to go through or to witness. Um, that's just a small portion of it. I know the shows that we did on the ancient wars of Earth, it really had me thinking, reflecting back onto the shows that we just did on the ancient wars of Earth, with that, same behavior. And I really feel that it is the same group of people repeating the same shit, repeating the same cycle over and over again, and perpetuating their own hellish reality. So just, wanted to share that with the family, that things that are going on within our own quote quote melanated communities. I look at Chicago, how it's like off the damn hook with all of the murders. And I know, a lot of some folks, not a lot, some folks are saying where guns are actually being dropped off in those neighborhoods via freight trains. And so, that's automatically some type of black operation or black ops for things like that to happen when you have high powered weaponry in the hands of the hood. But with that said, it still takes participation on each individual's part to carry out these acts. And that all goes back to where folks are from a spiritual perspective, where their consciousness is at. So we're going to talk next week, if I can pull the show together by next week, about generational curses in general and how that is all tied to vibration, how it is rooted in bloodlines, and how we are supposed to be breaking those curses. Okay. All right. So before I move on, did sister, brother, did you want to put anything on that? If not, I'm going to move into some follow-up items.
Oh, I just was reading about Detroit and all their problems, and autogenous one, I think it was. He was talking about the fact that it is the psyops or operation of the governmental people, because they want the land. That's called gentrifying.
Gentrification.
Gentrification, yes. And that has one of the things that's always been going on since time immemorial, is that when they want the city, they cause all the violence. So we move out the cities and we go to the suburbs. So when they want the suburbs, they cause problems out there, and we move to the cities. So they feel that that's what's going on, because they had 66 people shot on a weekend and no arrest. And all the cameras.
Oh, I'm sorry, sis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. And they have all the cameras around there, and nobody sees anything.
Right,
so,
right, where they can record, as Whoopi Goldberg said in one of her stand-ups, a rat piss on cotton in the basement, but you can't catch all of the other fuckery that goes on. They catch what they want to damn catch. So
truth.
That I totally agree with you on.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on. And, you know, another dynamic in Atlanta, and I may have talked about this before, and forgive me if I did. I can't remember if I was talking about it on a show or speaking about it to people. But when Katrina jumped off, I remember when they had to send folks to the different cities. So Houston was one of them. I think it was a couple of places in Texas. Atlanta got a group of people, and a couple other states. Well, anyhow, in Atlanta, I was told by people that the folks from New Orleans that were there, that were into the streets, came with their own set of violence. So it was two things. It was a mixture of people thrown in that were from rivalry neighborhoods. So they brought that to Atlanta, and then they would see each other out and try to take each other out that way. And the other part of it, which this just totally tripped me out, was that the same street boys was trying to take over territory in Atlanta. And so the Atlanta street boys was like, oh, no, you can go on with that bull crap. So basically, the Atlanta Police Department, now this is what I was told by folks that are in the streets, said that the Atlanta Police Department pretty much told the street boys of Atlanta, y'all do what y'all have to do. We gonna turn our backs. And they literally ran the New Orleans boys up out of Atlanta. And that stopped the crime from being so high in Atlanta during that time. Now, in Chicago, it's similar, but the only difference is Chicago, the very, very, very poor parts of Chicago, you had projects. And just like any projects across the U.S., which was some bullshit within itself. But anyhow, each particular project was its own neighborhood. So, if you part of that neighborhood, then pretty much You know each other, you grew up with each other, blah, blah, blah. So you couldn't have someone try to come into that neighborhood unless somebody can vouch for you. Okay, so when they tore down all of the projects in Chicago, I can't even imagine how many thousands of people that was. And they gave them vouchers, those that were on Section 8 or whatever housing programs. So they gave them vouchers. And so some of them moved out to the suburbs, and then that's when the violence started jumping off. And then some of the suburbs in Chicago, they didn't even accept Section 8 vouchers. And I think that still stands to this day, that the county of that particular city was like, we're not even accepting Section 8 vouchers. But those neighborhoods were no longer segregated. So that means if you had a rival with a gang, rival with a neighborhood, and now y'all live in the same place, or you see that person out, then the violence jumps off. So, that's also a lot what is happening in Chicago. I can't speak on Detroit. I can only speak on Chicago. But that's what's happening with a lot of these violence on the gang, because everybody's kind of blended together. So you may see anybody out and violence jump off. And then too, the code of the streets is sad to say, and who would have ever thought this, but as they locked up, a lot of the time, street dudes, a lot of the street codes went out the door also. So you just have a lot of younger generation that are just running haphazard as is concerning the streets. So, yes, there is psyops going on, no doubt about it, with in Chicago, and you can go to YouTube. There's a lot of videos that talk about how the railroad tracks that are by the hood, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, those railroad cars stop and they're open. And then when people walk up on them, there's like guns, machine guns, all those high weaponry guns that are there. So, of course, people are going to steal them. So, yes, stuff like that is definitely purposely done. Some say that the Chicago Police Department or part of it is running some type of black ops too. So absolutely those things are going on. But even with that, they know the formula to trigger the mind that is conditioned to act a certain way. And, until a lot of that mindset changes, that violence will keep perpetuating. So, but yes, very good point, sis. Very good point.
Hey, sis.
Yes, sir. Yes, Brother Sean.
As we are on the subject, people have to realize that majority of the victims are being shot in the face. They're being killed in a way where their organs aren't damaged. And hood niggas ain't that good.
Yeah, because they don't have the formal training to aim that well.
And then also, come on, if people out there banging like that, ain't nobody hearing them shots and sticking their cell phone camera up. Niggas hear other niggas outside arguing, get up 3 o'clock in the morning and record that shit. Ain't nobody hearing all these people get killed. Ain't none of these gangbangers sitting up recording this shit to prove that they hit their mark. Come on, niggas been putting shit on YouTube and Facebook Live forever, still doing the dumb shit. And all of a sudden, all these niggas in Chicago smart enough to kill and not record, but they still dumb enough to kill each other.
You know, some of this
That's
stuff.
the point.
Some of this stuff
could be harvesting of organs, because that's a very big.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's a very big business.
Well, I mean, Rahm Emanuel in charge down there. Obama gave the reins over to him.
Yeah, they did say that he has several. What are they calling them? Is it black ops sites? I might be getting the name wrong, but basically
that's Blackwater down in there.
Oh
yeah,
Blackwater. You got them
and I may not be saying the name right, but they do have these locations where they've been taking people and torturing them, and some just come up missing.
Right.
And now that's not a conspiracy. It was actually a media story on that. Of course, it didn't go nationwide, but it was definitely a media story on that. And it was like really quick. You heard it, and then you didn't hear about it anymore. So, yeah, they're definitely doing a lot of fuckery in Chicago, in those hoods. But like I say, they know exactly what place and what conditions to pull that stuff off. And that's the scary part.
I also think it's Mossad, because if you got Rahm Emanuel up in there, that's the Jews all day long. That's Israel.
You know, yep, that's true. You know, what's really the strangest thing is they have these books. Here I go spiritually. They have these books that are that's been taken out of the general text that everybody reads, and there's a book called Baruch. Now, Baruch is probably Ezekiel's brother or something, because I think they have the same ancestry. And he said that that's exactly what they are going to do, is to take the organs out of the people. And I read that one day, and I said, yikes. I think it's the second chapter. And I said, what? So this is one of the fulfillments of how they're going to try to eliminate us. They need the melanin. They need it for their survival. And our people are being the victims. I had a young man I see around my area here who's homeless, and I didn't get a chance to go hear him out all the way. But he said that they're taking us and taking our organs. He said that we're a target.
They've been doing that to the homeless
for a while now.
Because Bobby Hammond talked about that in the 90s. A lot of homeless people were coming up missing.
They're going into the FEMA camps and never coming out.
So, that doesn't surprise me. So, but again, family, this isn't scare tactics by any means. I'm bringing it up basically for awareness. So we do want to let you all know that it is some fuckery in the game going on. And then the other parts of it, like Sis said, the spiritual parts of it, one is definitely prophecy. And then the other part of it is breaking the chains of slavery from a consciousness perspective. So all of that ties into play. So just want to share that with you. But interestingly enough, now I'm minding my business, and Sis Cheryl Wooding sent me this video on the Arctic, and she was sending a follow-up on the island that I talked about. Damn, I didn't forget the island. How could I forget that island's name? Where I discussed where I have went on Google Maps, and I couldn't get all the way around the island, and as a matter of fact, it just Google Maps just totally stopped. So anyhow, she was just sending me a video where this YouTube person had taken a bunch of photos of this island. So I was like, oh wow, this is good. This was the island I was looking at. So I just started looking through some of this particular page is looking through their other videos, and that's all they do. They dedicate going on Google Maps, taking different shots or images from Google Maps of the Arctic, and they target the different islands. So the pictures that are coming back from this particular YouTube channel, and I'll get it here for you. Everything is damn acting up on my computer, but I'll get you the name of that channel. So anyhow, long story short, this person comes out with videos about 3 times a day of activity that's going on in the Arctic. So the videos intrigue me because they're literally drilling in on the energy that is coming up off of these islands out of the Arctic. And so a lot of the videos that I was watching, and the videos aren't long, they're no longer than 5 minutes because they're literally just taking different images and they're drilling in as far as they can in these different areas. And so the title of the videos that I was looking at was about plasma energy. All of this, excuse me, they've been putting out videos, short videos on.
Cutting you out. Is it just me or your phone is cutting out?
I don't know. Can you hear me, Brother Sean?
You breaking up.
Oh, I kind of figured they was going to, God damn it, do that.
You done hit on that plasma energy, honey.
Yeah. If it gets really bad, I'll switch. Okay, so that tells me that shit is really deep. So anyhow, all of this week, family, that particular channel was talking about a magnetic storm and it coming off of the Arctic. So lo and behold, a channel, YouTube channel, it's called WSO, puts out a video reporting cracks in Earth's magnetic field. So in that video, he talks about how it's a lot of plasma energy or plasma storms that's been hitting Earth, and that you can see the remnants or the aurora borealis all the way. They've been seeing it as far as Michigan, and I think they said Idaho. Okay, so meaning those aurora lights that are usually in the northern part further. So I just found that really, really interesting because just the video that I had been looking at, this person clearly showed in the videos where specifically this plasmic energy is coming from. So in the WSO YouTube site, he's thinking that it's coming from outer space. But the particular videos that I was looking at, this person showed where it is coming out of the Arctic. And he showed the specific areas, etc. So I was that just got my wheels a spinning. Well, hell, what really is plasma? And so I started looking at the definition of plasma, and it is literally, it says in ionized gas consisting of positive ions and free electrons in proportions resulting in more or less no overall electric charge, typically at low pressures lamps, or at very high temperatures and in stars and nuclear fusion reactors. Simply put, plasma is the fourth state of matter. So, meaning the fourth states, water is one state of matter, solid is another state, gas, and then plasma is the fourth. So in addition to that, off of spaceweather.com, they even talked about the geomagnetic storms that jumped off. And when did this article come out? This was on Monday, the 27th. And it says lights over Lapland has whatever. Geomagnetic activities continue. G1 to G2 class geomagnetic storms are underway on August 27th as our planet passes through a stream of high solar winds. The gaseous material is flowing from a northern hole in the sun's atmosphere. That's not accurate, but we'll talk about that. Earth's magnetic field was already reverberating from a strong geomagnetic storm that erupted over the weekend. The addition of this solar wind stream sets the stage for a new round of Arctic auroras tonight. Okay, so that geomagnetic storm is coming from the center of the earth. We've talked about that before. So it's not coming from the visible sun that you see. It's coming from the invisible, the most powerful sun, the magnetic black sun below. And that particular energy is shooting up and spreading across the planet. And based on that one YouTube channel that I was talking about, that particular energy in the Arctic is spread out. That plasma matter is spread out all up under the Arctic. Okay. And it kind of also leads me to believe that is another reason they have blocked off the Arctic, because of that concentrated plasma that is there, because that energy, and if you do a little bit more research into plasma, what it can be used for is very scalar weaponry. And so, which would also make sense why the military is guarding it. And then it took me back to when we were talking about ancient wars, when a part of it, they were talking about the lasers and the scalar technology weaponry is what was used in the ancient wars. Which I also believe is that same technology was used to cut down those ancient trees. Okay, so that is probably another reason they are guarding the Arctic, although I still believe there are portals there as well that you can get through. And it was saying electricity flows through the soil of Norway. When a geomagnetic storm erupts, most eyes naturally turn to the sky looking for auroras. But during the surprisingly strong G3 class geomagnetic storm of August 26th, there was action underfoot as well. Okay, so that just proves my point that it happens below. Probes buried in the ground in Norway detected strong currents of electricity moving through the soil. This chart recording made by Rob Stammers at the Polar Light Center in Lofton shows wild swings in current during the storm's peak. The currents were remarkably strong, says Stammer, who has been monitoring ground currents outside his Arctic observatory for many years. During the magnetic storm, voltages surged to 10 MV or 10 V/km. That's about 10 times stronger than normal. These are pretty rare readings without a strong solar flare during solar minimum. Why does electricity flow through the ground during a geomagnetic storm? It's basic physics. The changing magnetic field causes current to flow in wires and other conductors. In most places, soil can conduct electricity due to the presence of dissolved salts and minerals. So when the local magnetic field begins to vibrate, electricity naturally begins to flow. Okay, so let me stop right there just to show you how they are with the fuckery. Now, they sitting up here admitting that we have natural energy that flows within the soil. The soil is a conductor. The minerals are a conductor. The salts are a conductor. And the crystals, they don't say it here, but we know that crystals are a conductor. So why the hell are we not utilizing free? Geez, so I'm just throwing that in there to show you how they full of shit. So anyhow, this is the stuff Tesla was talking about, exactly, and tapping into that magnetic energy.
Okay.
So go ahead, sis.
One more thing. Our hair is made of copper.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? We're conductors.
Absolutely, we are.
Hey, sir.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Plasma, though. They have plasma donation centers.
Mm-hmm.
They take plasma out of the blood.
Yeah.
So I would reckon that the plasma they're tapping into is being extracted out of mama's blood.
Exactly. Very, very good point, because I had that point to make also, because the plasma, I equated it to like the plasma in our body and our blood. That's mama's plasma as well. So think of how powerful that is. Okay, that's another reason they guarding that so close. But go ahead on, Brother Sean.
Okay, the plasma screen TVs, you can't tell me that they're putting nuclear reactor type stuff in those TVs. I believe all that's like part of the whole thing with the melatonin pills.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I'm thinking back to the plasma screen TVs, and when something went wrong with them, it looked like a bruise on the screen.
Yes. You mean when they get
when
broke?
The screen right, it'd be that black spot.
Yep.
A bruise.
Yep. It emits spectrums of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
so, interestingly enough, I agree with you. And what they did, even with the melatonin pills, like they do with everything in nature, everything they do, what they're calling technology, is a synthetic of nature. So even with the melatonin pills, now I believe the parasitic group, as we talked earlier, they're using the actual natural potent melanin out of organ harvesting and all of that, and they're doing it through funeral homes, this, that, and the third. But these pharmaceuticals are processing it and making it as close as they can to the natural state, because that's also what they do when they go into the different forests, and specifically when they go into the jungles and the rainforests. They study those plants, and more specifically, and I read a book on it called Cosmic Serpent. They go to these particular jungles and rainforests, and they get with the shamans, okay, which are the herbalists that knows all of the properties of the plants, and they can tell you what those properties do, and they can have you tap into plants to get the best nutrients out of the plants, and they can even make up a concoction. It's close to, the name of it is close to Akashic, like Akashic records, but that's not how you pronounce it. I forget how you pronounce it. But anyhow, they make up this brew, and you can, and actually LSD is a spinoff from this shamanic brew. Okay, so you could take this brew and you literally can see the plants talking to you, literally. And many people have documented after taking this. And so LSD was a spinoff from this Akashic brew. And they send these different people out there to spend time with the shamans to learn what the different properties of the plants do to make the quote medicines that you see today. The only thing is, because they cannot mirror nature, they cannot mirror mama and nature, that they always put additives in it which make it impure. So very, very good points. Let me see anything else I wanted to put in here. I think we got it.
I think I want to add just a little bit more to the additives.
Sure, go ahead on.
People can understand about pharmaceuticals. If you look at the additives they use, it's one chain molecule short of plastics. They cannot do the whole entire thing of the plant, but they add a plastic type additives. So if you're hooked on pharmaceuticals, you need to get off of them, because you eat plastic. Plastics are not good for us. So that's what they do, and I'm like, okay. But I know about that the drug you're talking about. I think Dr. Phil Valentine was speaking of that.
Yes, because I think he was the first one. Excuse me. I heard talk about it, and I think he mentioned that book. So I went out and got the book and read it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I got the source from that book, Cosmic Serpent, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you did too. So yeah, and so people need to understand, even jewels are synthetics now. They don't even get the real energy off of the earth. They try to get the carbon and put it together in a factory inside of them, pressure or whatever, the diamonds or the rubies and all those things are synthetic.
Yeah, they are being synthetically made. You're absolutely right.
They don't have the same energy. They don't have the same Akashic record that the planet has, because they're force made. So they may be looking good, but they lack the power, like they do with crystal. They're making all that synthetic. You can't hardly get a real crystal, unless you pay a lot of money for it, because they've been taking that off the market and give you this plastic-looking stuff. So they've been doing this for a while. So we need all the energy with the plasma and the communication. That's the major, and I'm thinking I'm going to bring it to your topic. That is what's waking us up.
Absolutely. You nailed it right on the head, because that plasma, and Brother Sean said it, Mama Earth's blood, we've talked about that aurora borealis.
Yeah.
It shoots up, and that magnetic energy is flowing across the planet, okay? And that is what's waking folks up.
Right.
And for some folks, it's driving them crazy.
Exactly.
Because they cannot handle the energy. So this is why you're seeing, too, a lot of these false flags jumping off.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe also why they're trying to move people off of land. I think Hawaii is another target that they're they're going to try to flood people out of that, because they know what's going down. They know that it's a massive vibrational change happening on the planet via the magnetic / plasma waves.
Mm-hmm.
They know that this is happening. And it's another article. This one is on stock board asset. And it came out on the 26th, too. And it talked about the geomagnetic storm, a crack open in Earth's magnetic field, and plasma started pouring out. And this particular article says that the auroras were spotted in Scandinavia, Canada, and northern tier states such as Michigan and New York. So that's pretty far for the aurora borealis, or that plasma magnetic energy, to be spotted that far. And I think it's been going further than that. They're just not telling us. That's why when you are able to see a clear day in the sky without the damn chemtrails, especially around the sunset, you'll see the beautiful purple hues. I mean, just breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. So that's what's going on. Now, the only other thing that I want to point out with this that kind of blew my wig back was that the National Space Weather forecast is called NOAA. Guess what agency it rolls up to? It rolls up to the Department of Commerce.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. NASA don't even roll up to the Department of Commerce. But this particular agency does. And all of the agencies, it's another agency, I can't think of what it is, involving the Arctic, also rolls up to the Department of Commerce. So, as a matter of fact, the Department of Commerce was involved in putting out the warning about this magnetic storm. Can't make this shit up. Cannot make this shit up. So yeah, that's the National Weather Service rolls up to the Department of Commerce. So, to me, that means they are watching that stuff closely to get gauges on when things are going to happen from a planetary perspective, to know how it's going to impact the markets, their fake ass markets. So I just found that interesting. That was just something for thought for the family. Okay. Another article that I found, follow up, and then we're going to get. This was out of the Washington Post, and this came out. This was on the 20th. What makes someone Native American? One tribe's long struggle for full recognition. In March 2012, Heather McMillan Nakia wrote a letter to the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs asking the agency to verify that she was Indian. She was seeking a job at the Indian Health Service and wanted to apply with Indian preference. Nakia knew this might be difficult. As far as she was aware, no one from her North Carolina tribe, the Lumbee, had ever been granted such preference. Her birth certificate says she's Indian, as did her first driver's license. Both of her parents were required to attend segregated tribal schools in the 1950s and 60s. In Nakia's hometown in Robeson County, North Carolina, strangers can look at the dark ringlets in her hair, hear her speak, and watch her eyes widen when she indignant, and know exactly who her mother and father are. Who's your people is a common question in Robeson, allowing locals to pinpoint their place among the generations of Lumbee who lived in the area for nearly 300 years. Yet, in the eyes of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Lumbee have never been Indian enough. Responding to Nakia the following month, tribal government specialist Chandra Joseph informed her that the Lumbee were not a federally recognized tribe and therefore couldn't receive any federal benefits, including Indian preference. Invoking a 1956 law concerning the status of Lumbee, Joseph wrote, the Lumbee Act precludes the Bureau from extending any benefits to the Indians of Robeson and adjoining counties. She enclosed a pamphlet titled Guide to Tracing Indian Ancestry. As a staff attorney for the National Indian Gaming Commission, Nakia understands the intricacies of documenting Native bloodlines. In fact, she had submitted 80 pages of evidence to support her case. The Lumbee are descendants from several Carolina tribes, including the Shira, who intermarried with whites and free African Americans in the 18th and 19th centuries. Nakia, 38, can trace her family tree back to the 1900s when her great-grandfather was listed as Indian on the federal census. That's a terrible feeling, she says, to have someone say to you, you're so not Indian that you need somebody to send you a pamphlet. Lumbees rely on historical census documents listing the Indian population of specific counties to enroll members in their tribes. In researching her response, Nakia realized the same documents could be used to argue that Lumbees were eligible for federal benefits. She thought hers was a powerful legal argument. If she could receive Indian preference, then so could other members of her tribe. When I'm pushed, I don't run, Nakia says. I want to push back. And so she appealed the Bureau's decision and kept appealing until her case landed in federal court. Her battle would force the Department of Interior to re-examine its policy toward more than 55,000 Lumbee who make up the largest tribe east of the Mississippi. For more than 60 years, the government has acknowledged that they are Indians, yet deny them the sovereignty, land, and benefit it grants to other tribes. It's a situation that raises fundamental questions about identity. What makes someone Native American? Is it a matter of race or culture or some combination of both? The Lumbee don't fit neatly into any racial category, but they have long been living as Indians, cultivating unique traditions and community. Can a country divided by race ever accept them? And let me see. And to me, just so you know, to look at the article, they kind of, to me, look Mexican. Now, that's just me. I'm just saying. But anyhow, the Lumbee tribe takes its name from the Lumber River, which snakes beneath bridges and spills into swamps in the sandy eastern corner of North Carolina. The founding family settled along these swamps in the 1700s, fleeing the war and disease that followed colonization of the coastal Carolinas. Many Lumbee still have last names handed down by the families: Locklear, Chavez. Yeah, that Chavez is Hispanic to me, but anyhow, Brooks, Oxidine, Laurie. Some people believe they are descendants from members of Sir Walter Raleigh's lost colony of Roanoke, who intermarried with indigenous people and fled inland. And anybody, if you do a little research on that Raleigh fella, you'll find something pretty interesting where he was commissioned by the crown to go set up a colony in Charlotte. So anyhow, yeah, but you can research his story. It's very interesting. Okay, but anyhow, but most historians agree there was a Shiraz settlement on the Lumber River in the mid-18th centuries, and that several tribes, along with whites and free blacks, migrated to that area around that time. So in other words, they're hinting in the article, sorry, lady, your people aren't those people.
Right.
But anyhow, their descendants now speak a unique Lumbee English dialect. They cash their checks at the Lumbee Guarantee Bank and enroll their kids at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, the country's first state-funded 4-year college to serve Native Americans. The state of North Carolina recognized the Lumbee as Native Americans in 1885. At the time, they were labeled Croatian Indians, one of the many names given to them over the centuries because they are unable to trace their ancestry to a single Native American tribe. In 1888, the tribe started its long quest for federal recognition. Currently, there are 573 federally recognized tribes and more than 200 that are not recognized. The Lumbee occupy a unique netherworld between the two. Recognized tribes are treated as separate nations by the U.S. government. They also can receive governmental services, and individual members qualify for other benefits such as Indian preference. Right now, Lumbees don't receive any of that. Micaiah is trying to secure individual benefits without undergoing the arduous process of winning recognition for her entire tribe. Her case relies on a 1934 federal law, the Indian Reorganization Act, which grants rights and benefits to indigenous people who can prove they have 1/2 or more Indian blood. For Lumbees as a group, meanwhile, their long struggle to win recognition has been complicated by their history of interracial marriage, even though interracial marriage was common among southeastern tribes prior to the Civil War. Many powerful Western tribes have a perception that the Lumbee are really mixed race, mainly African group, says Mark Miller, a history professor at Southern Utah University, who has written extensively about tribal identity. That original sin, he says, is a major cause of the Lumbees' political problems. In the Jim Crow South, white ancestry was acceptable for indigenous people, but black blood was not. when the United States was dividing up reservation and providing land allotments to Indians, a government commission told the Mississippi Choctaw that where any person held a strain of Negro blood, the Servo blood contaminated and polluted the Indian blood. Many Native Americans internalized these racial politics and adopted them as a means of survival. After North Carolina established a separate school system for Indians in Robeson County in the late 1880s, some Lumbees fought to exclude a child whose mother was Indian and whose father was black. In their segregated corner of North Carolina, Lumbees enjoyed more power and privilege than their black neighbors, but this was not the case for Native Americans in every state. In Virginia in the 1920s, Indians were required to classify themselves as colored, whereas Oklahoma considered Indians to be white, prompting Creek Indians to reject tribal members with black ancestry. By the early 1930s, the Lumbee had spent several decades trying to persuade Congress to recognize them as Indians and now sought to be reorganized under the provisions of the Indian Reorganization Act. In 1936, representatives of the Federal Office of Indian Affairs traveled to Robeson County to determine the purity of the tribe's Indian blood. Harvard-trained anthropologist Carl Stelzer and his colleagues conducted tests on 209 people. They measured skulls, opened people's mouths, and examined the size of their teeth. As Lumbee historian Melinda Maynard-Lowry recounts in her book, Lumbee Indians in the Jim Crow South, Stelzer noted whether each person's hair was straight, curly, frizzy, or fine. He scratched women and children on their breastbone to see if it left a red mark. In his view, such redness indicated mixed blood, according to Lowry. 3 years after she filed her first request to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Nakia was digging through boxes at the National Archives when she saw the mugshot Stelzer took of her ancestors and the looks on the women's face after they had been forced to open their shirts and allow a strange man to scratch their chest. She was devastated. Just even thinking about the possibility that I would allow that to happen to my child is horrifying, she says. In the end, Stelzer concluded that only 22 of the 209 people he tested in Robeson possessed one half or more Indian blood, and thus qualified for some federal benefits. In some cases, Stelzer decided that one sibling had the required blood quantum and the other sibling did not. Once the federal government offered some individual benefits to the original 22, they broke off from the Lumbee to form their own political organization. Their descendants have their own complicated history of pursuing benefits and recognition. The rest of the Lumbees continued fighting for recognition from the federal government, and in 1956, Congress did pass the Lumbee Act, which acknowledged the indigenous people of Robeson County as Indians and called them by the name they had chosen for themselves. But at the time, the federal government was trying to terminate its relationship with Native people by disbanding tribes and selling their land. The Interior Department did not want the financial burden of providing services to a large new tribe, so lawmakers stuck an odd political compromise. They recognized the Lumbee, yet prohibited them from receiving any benefits or service offered to other tribes. Over the next few decades, the law was interpreted to mean that Lumbees could not qualify for health, housing, or educational benefits offered to other Native Americans. Their land was not protected, their children were not protected, from being adopted out to other tribes. They couldn't form their own police force, and they weren't consulted when private companies wanted to build natural gas pipelines on their land. Above all, the land deprived tribal members of a clear label. They could use the identity themselves to outsiders. It even confused the government officials charged with enacting Native American policy. People like Chandra Joseph at the Bureau of Indian Affairs, who insisted in her letter to Nakia that the Lumbee were not a recognized tribe. If the Bureau of Indian Affairs treats you like you're not really Indian, it's hard to convince people who have closely studied Indian law that they're wrong. And the constant burden of explaining and justifying one's identity can take a psychological toll. Reggie Brewer, a cultural coordinator for the tribe, says the current Lumbee recognition quest is not about money but respect. We know who we are, he says. We want our children to have that self-pride, that self-esteem of who they are. In her hometown, Nakia rarely had to explain her background, but when she went to summer camp with other Native American children, they started asking questions she did not know how to answer. Everywhere I went, people would say, "Are you mixed? What's your heritage?" Nakia recalls, and I would look at them blankly. Some Lumbees have red hair and freckles, others have tight blonde curls, and others have sleek dark hair and mocha skin. No one is kicked out of the tribe because of their skin tone, and that concept is hard for the Bureau of Indian Affairs to accept, according to Mary Ann Jacobs, chair of the Department of Indian Studies at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke. They don't like the fact that we refuse to put people out who look too white or look too black. If there are people, we keep them, Jacobs laughed, as if the idea of doing anything else were absurd. We refuse to give them back. Why should we separate out based on this race thing? If we have grown them and they speak Lumbee the way we speak Lumbee, and they've gone to Lumbee schools and Lumbee churches, and we fed them, nourished them, they're Lumbee. Let me see if I want to keep reading the rest of this because this is long. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of it because it's long. But anyhow, in this particular article, they show pictures of the different folks, and some of them to me look Hispanic. Some look mixed, and then you do have the melanated people in here. And then the article does go on just to say how some of the melanated people were just flat out denied, and how they took Indian off of the birth certificate of the melanated people, etc. So I just wanted to share that article with you all, just to let you know that I'm finding articles like this at least one every 2 weeks coming out of major publications. And again, this one was out of the Washington Post last week. All right, so I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it. If not, we're going to keep it moving.
Well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just read a 2009 application requirement for people who call themselves Native American, which we don't.
Right.
They are supposed to have 50% American Indian before they can get Medi-Cal. And so, it's kind of interesting. These Mongolians, which is what they are, came over here with Genghis, with Genghis Khan, Chinggis Khan, or whoever you want to call Khan, and they took our place. Now, these people that made this mess, and I recognized them as Indians. And I was looking at a video about them, and this chief had the sign and the symbol of an Assyrian. So this Mongolian Indian chief, they're Assyrians. So they didn't come over here and take up our positions as so-called Native Americans. That we're not Native, we're American Indians, so-called American, because that's another name from the government. But so they're having all these issues. They want the land that they believe they're entitled to. They want the benefits that they believe they're entitled to because they've been lied to all their lives. You know, they were raised in our spot, in the melanated people's spot. And see, they gave them $3.4 billion of. They won a case not too long ago for, I think it was $3.4 billion. So they split that. And they gave them Native Americans the money that belongs to us. So I don't know about any Lumbee, but 300 years is not very long time to be on this land. 300 years is like a drop in the bucket.
That's nothing, because when I read, she said we can go back to the 1900s. I'm like, Ann?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, not to be unsympathetic, because it's not her fault, but of course that's not far back enough. So from the U.S. corporation standpoint, they're really not indigenous.
Nope. And you got that 2020 census coming out too. That 2020 census and some medical
it's going to be on and popping.
Our medical records showed, are you a Native American or are you an American Indian? I said, but you look at that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Even Social Security is dividing that stuff up now.
And it's interesting that yet another article. This article was older. I don't even know how I ran up on it, and I'm not going to read it just for the sake of time. But this was from the publication The Guardian, and this one woman says, "I'm a bit brown, but in America I'm white, but not for much longer." So she's saying that the U.S. Census Bureau plans to redefine white to exclude people with Middle Eastern and North African origins. And so this particular article just goes into how that 2020 census, you just can't fucking put down nothing general no more. You have to specifically identify your bloodline. So it's going to be very, very interesting as this continues to unfold. And I do know that, and I see you 832, I'm coming to you. I'll try to get the information for you, but I saw where Sis Phoenix Moon, Sis Tasha She, and Dane Calloway are doing a seminar, and they're doing it out of New York. It's going to be September 8th, but they're streaming it online, and they're going to be talking about that 2020 census. So if you're interested, just do a little research to see how you can plug into that, and I have the link. And I'll post it on Truth UnCompromised page. So they're going to be talking about that 2020 census as well. So, okay, let me bring on 832. 832, your line is open.
Rhonda!
Hey, brother Peace and
Sandra,
love.
Hey,
my
brother.
sisters from other misters. You know I'm chomping at the bit now, boy. I'm finna go toe-to-toe on you.
I know I squeezed a lot in on the follow-up items. I know.
Yeah, let me share one thing first. Did you see Dane Calloway and Young Pharaoh get together on a live streaming? And
Yes.
I'm still trying to reclaim that video. Have you been able to get it posted yet? Because every time I click on it, it says video removed, which I guess is still referencing the streaming it.
Okay.
I just watched it last night.
Yeah, because I just watched it
Oh,
last
Sean,
night,
my
too.
brother from another mother. I didn't see you there, man. Yeah, that's the first thing. I haven't been able to get that to come up. I'm hoping they're gonna repost it. That's one. The second thing is I got so much. I'm so full to the brim. I'm about to bust. But when you pointed out the things that you pointed out, there were some interesting things that he brought to the forefront that is going to break a lot of this wide open. Do you have if you can bring forth that article he wrote where 98% of so-called African Americans are native, and even the 2% we can prove how they're not necessarily of African origin. That's one thing. I think you and Sean have brought up in the past about the plagiarism of Roots and Alex Haley, and I forgot the name of the author, white man who wrote a novel, because that story, The African, is a novel. And the name Kunta Kinte is in the novel. That this black plagiarist, Alex Haley, had to pay this white man $600,000 in a court judgment.
Yep.
Okay, that's first. We got to start with some facts like that to hopefully open up the eyes of these ignorant masses. We got a year and a half, to get this straight, at least get enough of us lined up. If we could shoot for 50% of this mass confused population, to start understanding what it means to be. Now, let me take a beat for a minute, step back on only one thing I'm going to allow this Caucasoid European demon to express. 1828 and Webster's definition of American, quote unquote. This is to Sister Sandra's reference of, are you a Native American or American Indian? Okay? In that definition of 1828, it states very clearly two separate things. American, I'm paraphrasing now, American is the Aborigines found by the so-called Columbus and other explorers who were copper-colored race. Now, we already know where the term race came from, okay?
Right.
Let's put a pin in that for a second. That's one fact. Second part of the definition states has now been used to include Europeans born here. Now, again, that's 1828, so that's already 2 centuries of when there is no way they can be calling themselves American. Okay? They are an immigrant population that is transplanted here and then worm their way in with this insidious population density thing called eugenics. Okay? Right. The $5 Indian stuff, you got to bring that to the forefront, too. The $5 Indians and the Dawes Act of 1887 is where the crime is committed. Do you know in that documentary where he mentioned the $5 Indian? Go ahead, bro. I didn't hear you, Sean. What now?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, brother.
In that, if you remember, when you see what Dane put in his documentary, there was a little catchphrase that it might have gone by you by not thinking. Kill an Indian to save the man. That was written in the Dawes Act of 1887. What is that blatant statement? Again, I'm not asking you to answer. It's a rhetorical question. But I want you to think that in mind. There's another documentary he used talked about the copper penny. And the original penny of the Fugio cent had a catchphrase on it that said, mind your business. The word Fugio, once it's broken down, which is of Latin origin, basically meant to make something disappear. Guess what they're trying to make disappear? Do you see how this directly connects to being misidentified? These mislabelings of Negro-colored, Black, African-American, Balalian, Mongoose, what, maybe Martian next week, whatever.
Right.
Is to make our existence, our inheritance, our ancestry disappear. So what do? You let a so-called white Caucasian pay $5 and claim to be what? You said it, Sandra. An American Indian.
A native
Neither
Indian.
of which, no, they're not native. I'm saying on the Dawes roll, they let them be misidentified. And this is what Chief Warhorse was talking about. Elwyn Gillum, Chief Warhorse, that very powerful sister down there in Louisiana.
She
said that these people forced us to take their names, surnames, and then copied them with the white version and the black version. I'm getting sick and tired of this black and white crap. Okay.
Yeah, and you can find that in the records. When you go back, you'll see two different, the same surnames. You'll see Negro, you'll see white, and I'm like, what the? So you're absolutely right on the money with that. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, brother.
Okay, so now, and I have to set the stage by bringing all these things up because I'm fired up when you brought this to the table tonight. Now, let me put it this way, because I just had a lengthy discussion with a good friend of mine. Just on that level, the reason why I got to the call late, for almost an hour. I'm gonna pose it this way: when you talk ancestry and genealogy, you got 2 parents, you got 4 grandparents, you got 8 great grandparents, you got 16 great grandparents, and therefore you have 32 great grandparents. In other words, you use the binary of 2 to the 3rd to the 4th to the 5th power. Okay? Can you explain to me how is it even one African is in that, or they used to call it nigger in the woodpile, back in the day, from these same people who created the term race and all this shit. Does that one person intermingling in those native populations wipe out the 31 other native ancestors of yours, or the 15 other native ancestors of yours? I know you see where I'm going with this. Or the 7 other ancestors of yours. This is when you start looking at stuff logically that maybe you can respond to the question of 98% of so-called African Americans are native to Turtle Island, or as he refers to as the indigenous Nietzsche. Okay, so now I'm just talking simple arithmetic. I'm not talking God, Christianity, Hebrew Israelite, Muslim, Democrat, Republican, Negropean. I'm not talking any of that crap. I'm just talking simple biological arithmetic fact. Okay?
You're right.
And what I appreciate from my brother Dane saying, and it's a very simple phrase here now, there is factual and there is truthful. Okay? Now, the truth is what we've just been descriptive about. The fact is we have allowed ourselves to embrace being Negro, colored, Black, and African American. Now, we have allowed that to become fact, but that still is not the truth.
Right.
Okay? So
Very
as
well
we move towards this direction of 2020, we are neither American Indian nor Native American as their legal designations of continuing this course of confusion, if you follow where I'm going.
Right. Yes, I am.
We are autochthonous. That's the reason why I keep bringing that word up, because when we're using the demon's language, because this is a foreign language, we don't know our tongue, we don't know our tribe. There were more than 1,000 tribal nations on this land before De Soto, Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci. I don't care what you want to throw out there. All right?
Right.
We're talking about a timeline of 1492 to 2018. Okay? So to predate them prior to 1492, do you know, have you seen the interview that Farrakhan did with a so-called Native American, as my sister Sandra has described, Jenny Winter Nightwolf? Did you ever see that interview? Did you remember him stating that there is a minimum of 627 treaties, all abrogated? What does that mean? Broken. What does that mean? 627 criminal outlaw acts taken by these foreign invaders. Now, I ask you this, and this is for my brother Sean too, man. Is a contract based on two equal parties in agreement, is it not? That's the basis of a contract, correct?
Correct.
If either party is violated, and I'm saying now, this is brother to brother here now, and I'm not putting this on you personally, I'm just using it for the discussion. You break in my house, kidnap me, rape my woman, impregnate her, cause miscegenation, create mulattoes, octoroons, quadroons, I don't care what kind, Mongolian nut babies. Have you not abrogated the contract? Because, by the way, you're only here in my house because of hospitality on my part as the party in ownership, correct?
Correct. And
now,
no contract. It's war.
That's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why are we confusing this shit with Black Lives Matter? With integration? With whether we're going to copulate with these people? Because it ain't about so-called hybrids, mixed race. You know, you heard all these terminologies that's coming up now, causing another layer of confusion under this millennial generation, where you got these confused individuals who happen to have a certain texture and a variation of hue tone, but they have absolutely no concept of the truth I'm describing here right now. And before I part, this is the other thing that came up. There was another Dane Calloway video that talked about, it was a panel, I call them Young Brothers Feathers, all right? I think Corey Mayo you may have heard of, or the Tonkinus One, AB Original, whatever. These are some other brothers that he has named.
Right.
They had a panel discussion about the Sonettas and the Pan-Africans, or what I call the House of Consciousness, and all his coon agents that are going around attacking Dane, and what they're using in nefarious behavior is including his name in the title of their so-called SmackDown videos. And what it does is, because you go and search engine Dane Calloway, a lot of these young people are going thinking that Dane's in the content of that information until they hear Sonetta or Jabari or whoever all these other fools, you know, bashing Dane. And as Dane said, then they'll click dislike, or these Negroes, what they'll do is they'll hide the comments downstream. I know you know how that works as far as the YouTube videos and whatnot. So that it makes it seem like they have increased the volume of their traffic, which again is just like nigga shit, using us in chattel slavery.
Right.
So they pimping this young brother, using the truth and authenticity of what he's done in his efforts and his research, then go and do that boule shit and that agent coon nigga crap of trying to disparage his personal character. They don't address the content of the information whatsoever. And as he said in parting with this, Negro, please, go get your own family history, put the documents up, show where you came from since you jumping off a boat from Africa. And by the way, when you get ready to get on the port, because I'm going to be ready for you, take them demons back with you that you brought here so you can swing by Europe on your way back to North Africa, taking your black ass home. And I yield.
All right, brother. Thank you. Peace and love.
Well
last part. Damn, he just straight up. I see you 216, sweetheart. I'm coming to you. That last part, boy, he just broke that shit right on. Right on by, boy. We'll be right there at the port. Matter of fact, goddamn, we'll throw you a barbecue. We'll throw you a motherfucking cookout.
Put some pork with it.
Motherfucking cookout, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That is so hilarious. I'm totally 1,000% agree. 216, I'm coming to you. Interestingly enough, I know when I did my research on my lineage, which listen to your ancestors, listen to your elders. You got someone in your family that's 80, You need to go to them, because I promise you, they're going to point you in the right direction if they just not flat out give you the answer. And you can back it up doing your research, because that's what I did. I listened to secondhand information from my Uncle Charlie, who he was the last living ancestor. And he told us the exact location, and it checked out. Now, interestingly enough, when I was doing that research, I also did the other side of the family, and this is what tripped me out, to show you how we are family. Sorry, can you hear me?
You're breaking up.
They cut you out. I
You
thought I
hear
hung
me
up.
now?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
hear
I
you
can
now.
hear you now.
Okay, I don't know what the hell that was about. Interestingly enough, when I researched both sides of the family and you start getting into the marriages, you will see where your family kept marrying within the same geographical location. That shit tripped me out. I know in my case, in my family, on the mom side and on the dad side, that the marrying kept happening within the same geographical location. So hence, around, the same tribes or similar tribes. That flat out just tripped me all the way out. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, sis.
I said the same here. But, people don't realize that Negro is a code word. If you flip that word backwards, it says origin. So it means the original. Just change the word around.
Yes.
And they flip it on you. And then they start calling you Negro. Now, they say copper colored in 1828. So take off the copper. They strop the copper and start calling you colored.
Exactly. And hence the power of words. The spell of words. Sis just did an excellent breakdown of how they use words to cast spells. So they literally took those words and reversed from a vibrational standpoint, and it sunk into the consciousness of who we really are. Excellent, excellent point on the spell of language. Let me get to 216, and then we're going to dive deeper into tonight's topic. But damn good example, sis. Very good example of etymology and the spell of language. Okay, here we go, 216.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, beloved.
Hello?
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Peace and love. This is my first time doing this. My name is Chaz. You brought up a lot of good topics. So I guess the one about the Indian and the culture, them looking for recognition, I feel, and my thoughts on that is just they have a culture of their own. So in my mind, they are native, or they are, you could say, indigenous to this area, to the North America. What they're mostly doing is causing division by blood and by skin color. And it's a good way just to keep the people, disconnected, because they're going to get us disconnected from the earth simply just by, how we buy the food now from the markets, but we no longer grow. And I remember my grandmother back in the day would have her own garden. And it's like how much I remember we would only go to I would only go to the store for eggs and maybe butter and little stuff like that. But when it came to vegetables and fruit and stuff, I can remember as a child just eating from the vines and grapes from the vines and different type of grapes she had, and just being in the garden. And now it's like, they cut us from that. They cut us off from that because now we just simply go to the store, and now we're depending on them instead of the Mother Earth. It's like we have replaced our deity, our true connection, because, when you cut yourself on your hand, your body automatically heals itself. It builds up a scab and then it heals itself. With the same thing with the earth, you dig a hole and it'll heal itself. You'll come back later and the ground is still, grass is trying to come out. It heals itself. So it's
right.
a lot of similarities there, but we have now, we have cut ourselves off from that, and we are getting our history from someone else, as y'all pointed out. They're just telling us, oh, we're from here, we're from somewhere else, where that gives them access to say that this land is now not ours. If you're not from here, we can now take what this is because this is not yours, so who's going to tell us not to? When really, that's just a lie. We need to listen, as you said, to our ancestors, but they have broken up the household. So how do we have ancestors if you've now broken up the household? It's a lot going on with that, I guess, and how I see it a little bit. That's just, one part of what I had to say on that.
Very, very excellent.
They cutting you off, sis.
Yeah, she might need to.
Yeah, they cut you off. Say hello. I'm sorry.
It's okay, bro.
Yeah.
Yep, is that her? She coming back?
But yeah, there was a point in time where we did grow our own food, where we had a better relationship with Mother Earth. But those times have gone. We've become lazy. We expect everything right now. You want to go in the store and just get everything. We no longer know how to reconnect with Mother. We don't.
And, yeah,
how old
and
are
that
you,
might
man?
be. Oh, I'm
Bro,
sorry.
how old are you? How old are you?
26.
So you probably never even tasted real food.
That's true.
You're not old enough to have even tasted real food. Over 90%. Over 90% of what's in the stores now that y'all consider food wasn't in the stores when I was coming up. There was no such things. When you read labels back in the day, it said whatever it was.
Looking flour.
You had jelly, it said grapes, water, and that was pretty much it. I mean, wasn't all these ingredients. You didn't need a science book to know what you were eating.
Okay. Sorry, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I had to dial in. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead on, Brother Sean. Continue.
Yeah, the whole food system, or what's passing for food now. Basically what it is, it's lower frequencies. Because that's what everything is frequencies.
Yeah.
And those lower frequencies is what disconnects us. It's stopping your natural electric flow. The ability to ground and reconnect to Mother. I mean, you could even take that off into some of the things that our people wear now, especially with the sisters. High heel shoes. They're no longer grounded. They're not connected to Mother. But there are many different examples.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I heard you say, because I could hear you all, I had jumped to another line, which couldn't hear me, but I heard you asking the brother how old he is, and he said 26. He said he probably never tasted real food. And, it's interesting because I, just like the brother was describing, would go we called it down south. Because when you live up north, you call down south. So that means the southern states, starting with Tennessee on down, we called it down south. So we would go down south for the summer as children. And my grandmother had a full farm. So literally, as the brother stated, matter of fact, we only went to the store, should I say, I guess for like candy, because she had chickens and all of that. She had a hookup with somebody for some beef. So I was able to see a working farm, what they're calling compost. I was able to see all of that every summer growing up. And I really do believe that foundation of, quote, going down south helped nourish me as a child from a nutritional standpoint, because everything was organic. And then it set in my psyche the love for gardening and connected to the earth. So everywhere that I have lived as an adult, with the exception of one place, and that's because I couldn't get anything to grow because the vibration was all fucked up. I didn't stay there long. I've always had a garden, because that was set in my blood from my grandmother as an early child. And I do encourage our folks, and this is going to be a part of our conversation when we do the show on generational curses, the curse of pain. It's these simple things that we are supposed to be putting back out there into the earth, into the universe, connecting with that higher vibration. You can do that with the food when you are growing it yourself, when you're just doing something simple by getting organic seeds or buying organic food, saving your seeds and growing it and nurturing it yourself. Not only are you creating a healthier environment, you're putting back out higher vibrational, but you are breaking the dependency on an entity, because our ancestors never depended on anyone to feed them. They entered and understood that Mama provided, and she provided an abundance. And we broke that cycle and have been on the down spiral, but now it's on a resurgence where you see people getting back into gardens. And it's not just white / quote, Caucasian people doing it. You also are seeing a lot of us doing it as well. So I would encourage anyone, even if you're in an apartment, get you some container pots, plant you just a little bit of edible food to start getting that connection back with the earth, because the amount of energy that Mama Earth is putting out is getting stronger and stronger, and that's for you to get stronger and stronger to raise your vibration. And you will need that in order to survive this new cycle that we have come into. So thank you very much, brother. Please don't be a stranger, and definitely come back and put something on it as often as you like.
It is.
So,
I remember we used to have a guy called the Egg Man. He would bring our eggs and milk.
Yep.
He would go to like the local farmers. He would bring the eggs and the milk because stores didn't have that at the time.
Yeah. Egg Man. I'm sorry, sis, go ahead on. And I see you 404 and I see you 708.
Also, I would caution everybody to stop eating seedless foods. There is no frequency and energy in that food. It's just dead food. They have seedless everything. And if we keep buying their seedless stuff, they're going to keep selling the seedless, and we won't be able to find any seeds anywhere.
Well, see, now the Spirit must have told you to bring that up, because what I have been doing is literally I have been saving seeds.
Yes.
And so you can save seeds, family, and you can freeze them.
Yep.
And have seeds for a lifetime. Now, I did an experiment this summer where I bought some organic cherry tomatoes, because I love cherry tomatoes. And tomatoes, I don't F with store-bought tomatoes. They're disgusting to me. If anybody has tasted garden tomatoes versus out of the store, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I got hard up. I wanted some cherry tomatoes, tomatoes from one of the local stores. So I picked them up. They were really, really good, really fresh. They taste like they were garden tomatoes. I said, you know what? I'm going to save these seeds, and I'm going to plant them in the garden. So I did an experiment. I took regular, non-organic cherry tomatoes. I took those seeds. I took my organic cherry tomatoes, and then I took my organic seed tomatoes. I planted all three. Only two of them generated. The store-bought shit, even the seeds that they had, would not bear fruit. Okay? So what this is saying is very, very true, because what is happening is the way they're producing this food, it is being generated to only produce one time. As a matter of fact, there is a lawsuit out by the black farmers suing, I think it's Monsanto's motherfucking stinking ass, for giving them seeds that only produce one time, so they can come back to them to have to keep buying the seeds. So this just proves the dependency that these entities want you to have on them to survive. And it does not have to be so. That's not the way our ancestors operated, and we have to break that cycle. Mama has an abundance. Now, each particular organic fruit that I have bought this summer, matter of fact, I bought a local cantaloupe from a farmer's market, probably now at least 100 seeds up out of that cantaloupe. Save your seeds, take them out of there, you dry them up, and you freeze them. Now you have a lifetime worth of seeds. So these are things that we need to get back to as a people, as our connection to Mama Earth. She has provided an abundance to us. There is no shortage on this planet. So very, very good point, sis. Let me bring on 404, and then I do 708. Then I'm not sure 216 if you want to come back on. But let me get 404. Uh-oh. 404, your line is open.
Greetings, sister. Can you hear me, beloved?
Yes, I can hear you, sweetie.
Okay, greetings to all. I've been doing my research extensively, and actually this week I came across some things. I know earlier part of the discussion you all were talking about race and how we identify ourselves going forward. There is a website it's called the National Center for Education Statistics, and it's NCES, and they have definitions for the new race of ethnicity categories. And basically what I was finding out, and I checked in some other things that they had, and what they state here for what they call a white person having origins in either or any of the original people of Europe, Middle East, or North America, And basically what I was finding out today was some of the research that I've done. There's a book that's called Aiden. I'm sorry, honey. I'm on the phone, honey. Okay, I'm sorry, beloved. There's a book that's called The Races of Men. And in that book, the picture that it shows the original melanation of people. The Caucasian was a melanated man, such as myself, with the dark curly hair of the original. Yep. And then they show the Australian as the next. Well, he would be the third in the change of people, and then the next one, the second one, would be the African. So basically, what I was found out today is we would be considered the original race of our people would be white, indigenous, Caucasian. That's who we truly are.
So you're basing that on the races of man, but aren't they out of Africa, North Africa?
Well, they are, but with all the research that's been done, they came from the original Eve Jean, and her name, I've got it written down here because I was just writing all this down today. The original Eve, hold on, I've got it written down right here because I'm going through the second part of it. But this is the identification that I'm giving you is actually the new qualifications, how we identify ourselves going forward for this particular site. And so basically where they have us listed as Black or African American, it says any person having origin in any of the Black racial group of Africa. Now, because Black has no standing, that is the reason why when we label ourselves those titles, it falls under this category based on the National Center for Education Statistics. And so if we label ourselves or we call ourselves because we are truly the white people of dark complexion, those who our original ancestors are, that gives us standing in law. And basically going forward, what that is going to do is actually change the whole paradigm because now everything that we do in commerce, see, Black is used as status in commerce, and it gives us no standing. But if we say we are Caucasian, white, indigenous, now we have standing, and now we are able to ascertain anything that we want, and they cannot take anything away from us.
Okay, and I get all that, beloved, but I just want to be clear because I already knew where you were coming from.
Well, what I am going to do for you, sister, I found a video. It explains very well. One of this gentleman, his name is Kyle Irving. By going through and tracing his information and his roots, he found out that his tribal people was of the Sioux Nation, but he also found out the same thing, and he had to what is called a reclassification status correction. So I will.
Right. And I knew that's where you were going. And you could drop me the information, but I just want to say, and I want to make it very, very clear, it's not the first time I heard that information.
Okay.
Classifying yourself as white, as Caucasian, according to your definition that you just gave me, puts you in North Africa. Is that not correct?
Well, that's where everything actually started, and I was giving you the name of Can I finish, please? Can I finish, please?
Well, I wasn't finished.
Okay,
so
go on.
If you classify yourself as North Africa, aren't you removing yourself from this lane?
No, you're not.
I don't care nothing about the corporation side of getting benefits because you're white. I don't care nothing about that. That is corporation language. I enter and understand that well. I care nothing about that. But if you classify yourself as North African, you are divorcing yourself from the land.
Well, what I'm
indigenous to the land or you're not.
Okay. Let me finish this. So what I have, what I have researched is in that instances, I understand where you're going with the conversation, but there is a gentleman whose name is Dr. Jin Lee, and he did some research on the evidence of where all people of Asian descent and Negro descent, and all of them come from that's where everything originated. And it says the mother Eve gene, the woman's name is Makuba. That's the original more than human descendant, but 200-year-old Mother Eve woman. She was the original woman who created all the descendants of all the people on this nation. And they all descended out of Africa. Now, I'm giving you the reference because I've done a lot of the research extensively. This gentleman is Dr. Jin Lee. He has further information. There's also some information that you can look up in the other site. It's called, it's by Raster Wire. I don't think that's what it's actually called. I can't remember the website right now. But if you look up all that information, and the original woman that they talk about, her name is Makuba, who went around the world and created all these different species of people. So I'll inbox you the information.
And I hear you all. I hear all of that. My only concern is,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You're not going to have to keep it down. Now that's rude. I apologize for that. Okay, go ahead.
That's okay. You know how those babies get as soon as you get on the phone.
Well, they're not all babies. They're not all babies either. They're old enough to know better. I'm sorry.
The only thing, and I'm not trying to discredit anything you're saying on the research side. Hey, that's fine. My only concern is I cannot co-sign nor promote anyone filling out a form to the U.S. court to reclassify themselves as white. That is an extremely dangerous thing to do. Now, I know people have been promoting this SF-181. I'm not co-signing that. To me, you are separating yourself from the land. Now, I'm not saying that's what you're promoting. I just want to be very clear that is something that I don't co-sign. But as far as the rest of your research that you've done, I truly enter and understand what you're saying.
I understand, sister. I really, truly do understand. And I've got a PDF of this particular book, and I've been reading different excerpts from it, and it's a 660-page book. And it's really, it has some information. So again, I appreciate your research as well. But I know a lot of stuff has been distorted and hidden from us. So it's all in discernment. And I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for calling in, and interestingly enough, the new Dane Calloway and Young Pharaoh video.
I did see. I'm going to put it back out. Actually, I watched the whole video that night. I saw the whole video that night. In the end of the video, when I tried to upload it and save it in the database that I'm now collecting, they removed it right away. So, and it was very great information.
Oh, man, I did listen to it last night, and I saved it. I'm going to have to go back and see if it's gone, but I'll post it on Facebook. But my point I was just going to bring to the family that both of those brothers' point in that video was that they were coming together because you do have people that want to identify as African and embrace their African heritage and be Afrocentric, and then you have others that, such as myself, identify as indigenous to this land, and there's no need for one to be mad at the other. It's just to uplift us in the Americas, period. So I did just want to bring that to the forefront as well. I don't have any issue with anybody on how they want to identify themselves, their ethnicity. I just know for me and what my ancestry line is, what I identify with. But I truly, nonetheless, thank you, sis, for calling in.
Right. I understand as well. Like I said, it's for discernment. And so basically, I've been doing a lot of studies, and I've been doing a collection of overview on different other researchers, and I've been compiling some information. So they have different organizations that has restructured the classification of information. And so basically, from the research and some of the information that I've gathered, it also puts us all in one particular geographical area where the beginning of life occurred. And so that's all my concern is.
Okay, gotcha.
So basically, some people are actually paid not to tell us the truth. And so it's all in discernment that we continue our research to go forward to find out exactly who we are.
Absolutely, sis. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, sis, for calling in and dropping that information.
No problem at all.
Okay, sis. Peace and love.
Naipo. Peace and love.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure, Brother Sean. I see you 708 and 216. I'm coming to you, sweetheart. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
The Out of Africa theory, which is part of a program to take everything from us. I call bullshit on that gang and Pharaoh thing with a million fucking ads, donations going up left and fucking right. Neither one has fully disclosed all the information. They feed motherfuckers crumbs for money. The two cannot fucking mix. You dig what I'm telling you? It's been an ancestral war for thousands upon thousands of years. And they still banging on us. It don't mix. Now, calling yourself white and Caucasian and all these things that places you in so-called Africa, don't you know you also taking on their fucking karma? You taking on their history? That shit ain't all right. That new language program, as far as for identifying yourself, that's something they created. We didn't create that. We wasn't in on none of the meetings and decided what we going to be called. So, yeah. Come on, this truth uncompromised. We ain't having it. We ain't having it. You dig?
That's a good point. That's a good point, brother. But, it's just some people.
Then all they doing is they volunteering to leave. When they ship your ass up out of here, don't ask nobody for no help. You want to be an African.
I mean, that's what people are identifying. I shouldn't say all people, but that's what some people are identifying with. They are identifying with their ancestry coming out of Africa. Who am I? If that's what they want to do, that's fine. Just
exactly.
Like that sister, for me, that doesn't apply to me based on what my ancestors said. And I just wanted to make clear, and she got that point, but no disrespect to her in any way.
Oh, yeah, no disrespect, but all I'm saying is
I don't think
voluntarily go back to Africa. I mean, y'all got money, y'all got jobs, y'all got passports. I mean, it's just so many ways to get there. They coming here And y'all still talking about there. They ain't even talking about there. Look around. Everybody on the whole fucking planet is trying to get here, and y'all talking about elsewhere. They done burnt that place up. Ain't nothing there. That's why they come in here to take care of things.
Yeah.
Our ancestors had it good. And guess what? Shit's still good here. Just like they said it would be. All that stuff about demise and all that stuff, dog, all that stuff was written about over there. Wasn't no origins over there. When you do research, you find out everything they got over there, they got from over here. So, origins, the beginning, ain't no beginning of us. Ain't no end of us.
Okay.
The census thing, it's right here on us. And people still put out disinformation. Time is crucial. Playtime is over.
Yeah.
We can't keep coddling people.
Yeah, and
we
on
can't
the
keep
census,
coddling
you
people.
cannot
This war.
put that you white. You have to put what part of white, where's your origins from? So even white Caucasians just can't check white Caucasians. They have to say, Italian, German, etc. So even with Africa, what part of Africa? They're not doing this stuff just to be doing it. They're doing it for a purpose. Trump card is not putting before people immigration. I'm shipping you out of here for no reason. They're putting people back to their particular position where they are connected to the land by origin. And they are doing that, I believe, and Brother Sean, you said this out the gate, and more evidence starting to prove your point, because it's based on that vibratorial state. So if you're not where the hell you're supposed to be, you're not going to make it. So I can't argue with you on that. That's why I'm so strong about the melanated folks. And on this particular land, Turtle Island, and that's including Canada and all of the Caribbean, know who the hell you are. Don't believe what I say. I have no standing in that. It is your responsibility to know who you are. And you are who your people tell you are. Not based on no research, not based on what Rhonda say. It's what Big Mama, Great Aunt, whomever tell you who you are. It is extremely, extremely, extremely important that you make those connections, because there is a lot of information out there, and a lot of it is true, a lot of it is not true. You do have to use discernment, but you are at this age that you should know who you are. And it doesn't matter who come along and say X, Y, Z. Don't matter. You know who you are. So that's what's important. And it's going to become more and more important in the next 2 years. So very good point, Brother Sean. Very good.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not attacking our people. We already at war. And if you're going to choose the opposite side, then, you chose your fate. I don't have the time to do that. None of us do.
Free.
That's why everything heats up the way it is. That's why all these distractions are coming up. That's why they're giving people all these other options to be everything but who they are. It's the New Deal. All those other contracts are up. That's the reason why they're changing the terminology. The whole spell with language again.
Yep.
They hid all this stuff to bring it out at this time to trip people up. They're steadily making discoveries here in the Americas, or so-called discoveries, but they know where they buried shit to begin with.
Right. What they took out, or what they built over.
Exactly, and all these things with the weather, the earthquakes, hurricanes, these fires, everything. The earth is shifting, and stuff is being exposed. They can't keep covering up everything.
They can't.
But as long
really
as our people stay distracted, that gives them time to do it.
Yep.
And they're doing it all with language.
Yes.
The written word, media.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It all comes around to language because that's what everything is encompassed within. If these things, like, had you not described us as human beings, what we look at as human beings would still exist without the name. Everything you see would still exist had you not given it a name.
Hey, right.
Everything here comes from Mother. There's nothing on this planet that's from outside of the planet.
Right.
But everything is supposed to be in its own perspective place. Just like in your body. Your heart ain't supposed to be in your left butt cheek. Your lungs ain't supposed to be where your brain at, nor the organisms that are in each of those organs, each serving an individual purpose. Everybody think we're supposed to be of one like mind. No, we just all got one purpose, just like all the organisms in your body, each do a different thing. All they thinking about is what they doing. But it serves the overall purpose.
Right.
They ain't trying to be like everything else around them. They doing what they do. You get all these mutations when you get to putting this with that and that with this. We're going through all this because we've done too many mutations.
Yes. And the spell of language, because remember when we were going through the ancient wars of Earth, and remember when they had the fall from the higher dimensions, and it said that they had to create language because they had forgotten how to operate at vibration. And I think it was Brother Seven Bomar that said each of us have a vibrational tone to us that is unique. So meaning we have like a song that uniquely identifies you as that sovereign sacred soul. And so that tells you that we would communicate, as we could telekinesis, vibrate, and send each other the thoughts and the pictures. and you didn't have to be in front of each other to do that. But as we lowered our vibration and it got so to the point where we disconnected, that in order to communicate, that's when the whole language came into place. And it's been hell on earth. I would say, now this is a hell, because language has been manipulated via the vibratory, because language itself carries vibration. Okay? That's what that whole, whether or not you want to say it was a mythology or not, Tower of Babel was about also. The controlling of the language. Very, very good point, Brother Sean.
Hey,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also the power of language. Anytime we read timepieces, when we read things that took place in the past, we're actually in the past.
Yes.
Everything that we do that's not pertaining to the present moment is putting us in different time periods. If everything we need to know is within us, what is the purpose of reading anything at all? Because anything we read is pertaining to humanity. There is no way to accurately describe what we'll say is the all. No language can encompass it.
Right.
I mean, none of us have the memory to remember all of that.
Right.
I mean, we're not even in touch with our ancient language. We can't even communicate with the animals no more.
Yeah.
The trees, the plants, and it's all a part of us.
Right.
We can't even effectively communicate with ourselves because of language.
Totally 1,000. Totally 1,000. Because we have such from the earth, such a disconnect. And it started way back in the ancient times. And the further we introduce technology, language, instead of being in tune to create things. So we're exactly the point that we're at now, because when you start to get in tune with the vibrations, you start to get in tune with Mama Earth, the plants and the animals will communicate with you. And it's not going to be through language. It's going to be through vibration, not a language state. Language is what tripped us up to the point that we are now talking about some treaties, talking about some constitutional law, organic, who gives a fuck about any of that? Because none of it is natural. Mama Earth don't need no constitution. You don't need no constitution to motherfucking plant no seed. You don't need no status corrections. None of that bullshit. But it shows you the more we use those things, the more disconnected we got from the earth, to which AKA is from the source. Everything that you need, you have. All of that other shit is lower vibrational state. planet, Mama Earth, and you yourself, you have everything you need to survive on this physical plane, and you're even beyond this physical plane. But we have gotten so far removed from that with the fuckery. And language is a big part of the fuckery. Folks can cast those words, cast those spells any way that they choose. They can go on those words, and which is exactly what has been done, which has put a whole planet under a spell. Think of how deep that is. Anytime everybody is concerned about what some entity, some fake entity classifies them as, that's fucking deep if you really stop and think about it, to show you how much of a spell that we're under. The spell of money. How that particular word, currency, money, has cast a spell across this planet to feel that you must have that in order to survive. When the truth is, Mama has given you everything you need to survive. So yes, he is absolutely correct on the spell and the danger what language has taken us to, and how we have taken on other folks' language and the intent of the language, and let those spells be cast upon ourselves. And now you are at an age on this planet where all that shit is over with, if you choose for it to be over with. It's done. Let me go to 708. I'm sorry. Let me step off my soapbox. And then we're going to try to get in the topic. Looks like we're going to go into overtime. We may have to pick back up next week. So let me get 708. Sorry, I know you were holding a long time. 708, apologize for that. Your line is open.
No need to apologize. That's frequency. It's vibrations. I give you greetings, blessings of love. How's everyone doing?
Well, beloved. Well, peace and love.
Well, peace and love, sis. Peace and love.
And peace and love to you, each and every one of you, to the universal family that's listening. I just want to call in for a few minutes to say thank you. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your time, to breaking down the different components of your topic tonight. The frequency is here now. There's nothing we can do. Whether you handle it or not, you have to go within. If you don't know what to do, go to church. But if Dr. Blair has taught me, if you know what to do, go within. Our indigenous, and our indigenous people, they have returned to us. They're in us. They're on this earth plane. And in North America, where we live at this time, the indigenous people is waking up the land, waking up the grass, the trees, even food. We must reach that. We must reach it and remove all fear. This is a constant thing I have to do each and every day. I have to remove all fear because I live in Illinois. You hear about the crime. You hear about the shooting and everything, but it's based on fear. But once people go within, if they can make